Welcome back to another episode of the North Star Takes podcast. I'm Bailey Paulicki. He's Jacob Liberta, and we're a Minnesota sports podcast. So if you're a Minnesota sports fan, please click the like button on this video and feel free to subscribe to our channel if you haven't done so already. And today we're going to be talking about Minnesota Gophers football, which we don't talk about all too often, but they feel like they're worth talking about at this moment because they're 4-0. They've had a dominant start to their season. Obviously, they played some cupcakes at the beginning of the season, but blowing out Michigan State at Michigan State, which a lot of people maybe expected the Gophers would have a tough time, tough road environment, etc. And, you couple that with the way their schedule looks for pretty much the rest of the season. They don't play Ohio State. They don't play Michigan. Not really any crazy tough games on the schedule. At Penn State might be a little difficult. But, I mean, the road is pretty wide open for this Gophers team to have a really, really successful season. So what are you making of this start, Liberta, and do you think they can keep it up throughout the portion of the regular season here?
Yeah, I'm rolling the boat, man. This has been a great start to the year. Obviously, we played 3 cupcakes to start it out because obviously it was the Jerry Kill showdown week 1, and
Yes.
that's a terrible team. They shut them out, and then they played Western Illinois, an FCS team that NDSU is going to beat up on later in the year, and then you got Colorado, who was a Power 5 team, but just in shambles right now, and just really took them to the woodshed too. So then it came down to this Michigan State game to open the Big Ten slate. And it's like, well, how real is this Gophers team? Like, obviously, they just obliterated the first 3 teams they played at home, but it's like that's kind of to be expected because they're favored heavily in all of those games. And now you get to this Michigan State on the road, mind you, where it's like they were an 11-2 team last year. They paid Mel Tucker all sorts of money. They had big extension that now Michigan State fans are ripping them for, but that's beside the point. But then they just blow them out of the water, control the game wire to wire, and on the road, it's a really tough thing to do. So it's like, man, this team is just legit. I think they're starting to catch the eye of the national media too. Like Joe Klatt is singing their praises. I know I've seen that in recent days. And Kirk Herbstreit came out on Twitter and said the Gophers were like one of his 3 best teams of week. What was this 4 now? And then PJ Fleck being one of his best coaches too. So it's like wow. I think all the pundits are starting to like them. And like you said, the schedule looks very favorable. I think we have a couple games where we should just be able to take care of business here before that Penn State showdown on their whiteout night. So I know can't exactly look past any game, especially like Purdue coming up here. That's a squad that usually pulls off one big upset every year. So you just hope you're not that team. And then Illinois shouldn't be much. I know it's a road game, so you never know. But then, yeah, it comes down to that Penn State game. If you win that, man, then I think you're probably a top 10 ranked team. And then you're looking at not only like a potential Rose Bowl on the horizon, but maybe you're talking about the college football playoff if you manage to win those rivalry games at the end of the year and maybe surprise Ohio State in the Big Ten championship game. So I think the sky's the limit for this team. PJ is the first coach in, I think, 50 years that's had a career 500 record in the Big Ten. So obviously he knows what he's doing. And man, I'm really excited. My optimism for this team is just going through the roof now. So I'm excited for what's to come. We just got to win games we should because we should be favored. I think probably every game from here on out besides that Penn State game and probably the Wisconsin one at the end of the year, those 2 road games and tough environments. But the rest of the games you should be favored in. So it's like you win the games you should, you're going to be sitting in a good spot at the end. And hopefully we can finally win the Big Ten West for the first time. And hopefully you find yourself in that Big Ten championship game somehow with 1 or 0 losses because then even if you lose, your consolation is part of the Rose Bowl. So
exactly.
That's pretty sweet. But yeah, that was kind of a lot, Bailey. What are your thoughts right now?
Yeah, historically, I haven't been a super big Gopher football fan. I'll follow them and I'll kind of keep track of what they're doing. But I've been watching them this year, and they've just been a ton of fun to watch. They brought Kirk Shiraka back to be the offensive coordinator, and he was the offensive coordinator in 2019 when Tanner Morgan looked at his best. And Tanner Morgan's really returned to form, I think. I mean, he's looked very good passing the ball, very comfortable. He did lose his top receiver, Chris Ottman-Bell, for the season, which was unfortunate in that just a thrashing of Western Illinois. It's unfortunate they lost him in that game. But other than that, I think, just the experience level of this team, Tanner Morgan's in his 6th year. Mo Ibrahim, he's back from his Achilles tear. He looks fantastic in his 6th year. So they have an older team, that's for sure. But at the same time, PJ's been recruiting the crap out of these high school prospects. So it's like, even if we're going to lose some of these, key veteran guys, if you will, I think we got guys behind them that'll come right in and fill their roles just as well. So This definitely seems to be a sustainable type thing that PJ's got going on here. He's definitely turned this program into a very positive direction. And I mean, there's no better year for the Gophers to have a really good year than this season. They have a weak schedule. Like I mentioned earlier, they don't have to play Ohio State or Michigan.
Yep, that's
The
huge.
Big Ten West in general is just down this year. A lot of people hyped up Nebraska preseason. They look horrific. They already fired their head coach a couple games into the season.
Yeah.
Which, just a clown. They're like the Dallas Cowboys of the Big Ten. It's just they're a joke year in and year out. Um, and then Wisconsin, they're not as good this year either. I mean, they always kind of have a good defense, but I mean, Ohio State completely just undressed Wisconsin on national TV last week. Um, Iowa, PJ historically has never beaten Iowa. We always struggle against Iowa, but that Iowa team is horrific. I mean, they have zero offense. The defense outscores the offense for that team. So, um, these rivalry games at the end of the year against Iowa and Wisconsin, they really should be able to just take care of business there. And then, yeah, you mentioned the Penn State whiteout game. That'll be tough because I think Penn State is still ranked in the top 25. So,
Yeah, I think they're
um,
borderline top 10 team now.
yeah. So, but yeah, if you could somehow go in and win that game, I mean, yeah, you're right. You're talking top 10, and not just, potential Rose Bowl, but, you know, potentially college football playoff as well, which sounds absolutely crazy. But like, there is a world out there where if you lose one game and then you win the Big Ten championship, I mean, I feel like they almost have to put you in the playoff because
Yeah.
it's either you or Ohio State at that point.
Yeah, exactly. Literally, it's a one-loss Big Ten champ. How could you be denied? Especially when you're going to pick up a signature victory, whether that be Ohio State or even Michigan, maybe. Who knows? It probably
Yeah.
depends how that rivalry game goes. But let's say we get to that point. I know maybe we're getting a little ahead of our skis here and jumping the gun and getting a little too hyped because feels like there's always that moment when the other shoe drops for our teams. But
Right.
just looking ahead, hypothetically, like man, I think you couldn't be denied because you think about how the playoff would stack up. You got Alabama and Georgia; those feel like locks, assuming they don't drop
Yeah.
some weird games here in their conference schedule, which I don't imagine they would. These are arguably the two best programs in college football now, so it's like I don't see that. So they're probably locks, and then it probably comes down to basically edging out like between a Clemson and a USC. I think USC will probably win the Pac-12, but you never know. I think
Right.
Big 12 is already out of the mix, to be honest. I don't think there's any
Yeah.
strong contenders there. Then the ACC, it's kind of Clemson, but the thing is, Clemson, they're really, really getting by the skin of their teeth in some of these games lately. So, like, you kind of figure, I don't know if that's really sustainable either. So then there's that spot there for a one-loss Big Ten champ, like such as ourselves, where it's like
Mm-hmm.
you take care of business, win the games that are on our schedule. Like, how can you be denied? And like you said, we have really all the necessary components of a championship level team, really, considering, like you said, you have the really experienced quarterback who is his most winningest active quarterback in the FBS right now. And then you got Mo Ibrahim, who's a beast, who I think is slowly creeping up as a dark horse, like Heisman candidate, just because this guy consistently churns out these 120-yard games and two
Right.
touchdowns every single time he's on the field. So it's like this guy's just a machine. And like you got John Michael Schmitz. I mean, even for what that's worth, I think he's a Remington Trophy award winner potentially just because he's just really good center. He's among the best in college football, if not the best. And that's great to have on your O line, obviously. I mean, that's a guy the Vikings could use. And
Right.
he's probably going to be a second round pick this year in the NFL drafts. Like, he's obviously very good in his own right. And it's like, there's so much talent in this defense. Like, I think it's just, I don't think they have a lot of touchdown yet, like the first teamers at least. And I
Mm-hmm.
think as far as non-garbage time points goes in 4 games, I think they have a lot of 3 points. So it's like
Wow.
they're just putting the clamps on these offenses and not letting them do anything. So I think that's obviously the sign of a good team too. And that's really what it boils down to sometimes in the Big Ten is like run games and defense travels no matter where you go. So like
Yes.
if you can do those effectively, like there's not a lot of teams that are going to beat you. And I know the thing that Gophers really lack is probably just the talent because we don't have the 5-star guys like all these other big programs do, but we have a lot of guys that buy into what PJ's selling. So like that in its own way, it definitely elevates the level of all the players beyond like their natural talent. So that
Yeah.
putting them in positions to really succeed. And then you consider, I saw a fun stat out there too. And now we got Kirk Soraka back in the mix, the Tanner Morgan whisperer, and then we got Joe Rossi and PJ Fleck all together. I think dating back to the beginning of 2019 and all the games that they've played together, or no, I think it was the last 2018. Like when we kind of felt like we're putting things together, won our
Yep.
first game against Wisconsin forever. Like from that point until now, I'm pretty sure a combined record of like 21-3 or something like that. Like
Wow.
it's something absurd where they just all they do is win. And it's
Mhm.
like sometimes it doesn't look the prettiest, but they get the job done. We run the piss out of the ball, and more times than
Yes.
not, that's going to work for you. But at the same time, it kind of helps that when you have such a good running game, then ideally when you play even those good teams, like that's going to suck a lot of guys in the box. And then it's just on Tanner Morgan to beat him over the top of some of these guys. And he certainly spread the wealth last time out. I think he in the first half he threw it to like 10 different receivers, like
Yeah.
10 different guys caught a pass. So it's like it's not one guy. And then I think that's probably the biggest problem or biggest concern I have probably is just having that elite receiver that can take the top off the defense. Like I know in 2019 it was Tyler Johnson, Rashad Bateman, just fantastic players. And
Yeah.
Rashad Bateman, first round pick, and now he's making huge plays for the Ravens. And then even like I said, Chris Bell, now he's down. He's part of that mix too. So that's probably what the biggest worry of mine is right now. But like there's not a whole lot to nitpick here at this point.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, the optimism is real high, and that's what's fascinating is they have a real chance to do some damage this year. Just um, typically the Big Ten West is kind of full of boring football. Like,
Yeah.
there's always the memes about it. I know Big Cat at Barstool talks about like Big Ten football, where it's like a 6-9 field goal fest, and there's punt after punt after punt. You typically see that with a lot of these Big Ten West teams, but I'm happy that the Gophers are starting to play a brand of football that's more exciting, more high powered. And yeah, like you said, they do run the piss out of the ball, but at the same time, they have a passing game that can go off of that and gash people for big plays as well. So yeah, Tanner Morgan's not going to be like a Bryce Young or something where he's going to be the absolute star of this team and he's going to be commanding and willing this team to the college football playoff. And he probably won't even be drafted as an NFL quarterback at this point. But, I think he's still good enough, to play in a system where they lean on the
Exactly.
run game and the passing that comes off the run game, etc. So they're sitting in a real good spot, and I'm just excited to see where the rest of the season takes them here.
Yeah, give me Tanner Morgan versus Bryce Young. Tanner Morgan
Yes.
versus the future, in my opinion, number one overall pick. I think I'm
Yeah.
here. I'm here for that. I want to see what that looks like. But albeit, I still have that ounce or that little bit inside me that's a little bit worried about what Tanner Morgan's going to look like against the most elite competition that you could find in college football. So
Yeah, that's my one worry is like if say we got to the Rose Bowl and we ended up playing like a USC or an Oregon or something, that'd be fantastic. That'd be awesome. But if we had to play even like in the Big Ten championship, if we had to play like Ohio State, like how would Tanner Morgan be able to handle that defense? Because
no,
last year it didn't look too good against Ohio State when we played them. So um, I don't know, man. Maybe things would be different this time around, but
yeah,
I don't know.
that
It's
That's a game you legitimately have to trade touchdowns in. Like your offense has
yes,
to be firing on all cylinders. And it's probably a game that I would hope plays into our favor if we can run the ball. Then you're just holding on the ball and creating time of possession like crazy.
right.
It's just to limit possessions a little bit, but still, you're gonna have to be highly productive in a situation like that. Or against even like coming up here in a few weeks, play Penn State. I think that one's gonna be a tough one where you're gonna have to score some points. So I think we'll
Absolutely.
we'll see what he looks like in those high pressure situations this year with Kirk and Siraka back in the mix.
Absolutely. So before we take off here, do you have any other final thoughts on the Gophers or what lies ahead for this season?
Yeah, get excited. Enjoy the season for all it's worth because I think this is a very good team. I think it's up there with 2019. So I got good vibes right now and just kind of hope that they don't drop any games that they shouldn't and just kind of take care of business in most of these and uh, really obviously keep going the way they're going, keep playing the way they're playing, and I think everything's gonna be great. But not to pour cold water, I guess, on this to end it, but I'd also keep in the back of your mind to like kind of goes back to the enjoying the season part of it, where if we're so good to the point where I think we're like challenging for the college football playoff and like go to the Rose Bowl or something, I have that thought inside that keep in the back of your mind that like if we're so good, PJ might get up and bounce, which I hope
Yeah.
that's not the case, but I kind of worry about that a little bit considering he turned this Minnesota program if we get to that point into like this vastly huge winner, like some other school could come along and poach him, which kind of worries me a little bit. But yes, enjoy the season for all it's worth, and hopefully it doesn't come to that.
I saw after the Michigan State game, some people were saying we should already extend him again after I think we just extended him last year or something or
I
2
thought
years
we,
ago.
yeah, I thought we did pretty recently.
People are saying they should tear up that contract and just give him a new one because I mean, he's turning this program into somewhat of a monster. So,
Yeah,
um, with jobs opening up, especially like the Nebraska job, not that I think Nebraska is really that much better than the Gophers, but I mean,
oh,
there's other jobs that'll open up out there that I mean could be concerning to lose PJ. So that's definitely something to keep an eye on. But hopefully, hopefully we don't have to worry about that. I'm sure the University of Minnesota is going to do whatever they can to keep PJ around because I mean he's doing a fantastic job. So
I know we've never seen anything like this as far as success for Gopher football in 60 years. So
I
like
know.
we gotta do whatever it takes.
Absolutely. So that will do it for this edition of the North Star Takes podcast. Like I mentioned earlier, please click the like button on this video and feel free to subscribe to our channel if you haven't done so already. You can also feel free to give us a follow on both Twitter and Instagram and let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. What do you think about the Gophers football hot start to the season so far? How far do you think they can make it? And just any other thoughts you have in general on Gophers football and PJ Fleck and rowing the boat, all that good stuff. So until next time, thanks for watching.